In order to break even with this price advantage, you would have to drive 700,000 kilometers or 435,000 miles on the truck to just break even with the initial purchase price of a diesel engine. What is going on today, guys? My name's Alex. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about whether or not buying a Cummins diesel truck is still a better option or a cheaper option in the long run versus buying a gas truck. Well, in this situation, the 6.4 HEMI. And if diesel is a cheaper option, we're going to talk about how many kilometers you need to drive to make up for that initial cost of buying the diesel truck. So I was at the fuel station the other day. There's the price of gas and the price of diesel. Quite a bit of difference, no kidding. So I figured I'd make a video on this. So I think it's fair to say that most people are going to keep their heavy duty trucks probably longer than the average passenger vehicle. And the saying used to always be that a diesel truck was always cheaper in the long run. It was the best bang for the buck. But that was at a time when diesel was actually cheaper than gasoline to start out with. Now the tables have turned on that pretty dramatically, as you guys probably know. Diesel is a lot more expensive than gasoline. So I figured we'd tackle that question today. Is buying a diesel truck still the best bang for the buck when it comes to the long run? So there's three reasons why a diesel engine can potentially be more cost effective in the long run. Number one is fuel economy. So a diesel engine has a much higher thermal efficiency. What do I mean by thermal efficiency? Well, a diesel and a gas engine are both considered heat engines. So basically what they do is they turn heat energy or burnt fuel into mechanical energy, which then can turn the wheels. And a diesel engine does it much more efficiently than a gas engine does. This 6.4 HEMI right here is going to turn a lot more of that fuel energy into actual heat rather than pushing the piston downward. The second reason is because of the fuel price. Now, like I mentioned in the past, diesel was always cheaper than gas by a little bit, and you can make the argument there. Obviously, today that is not the case. Those fuel prices for me are very local, but I imagine anywhere in North America, it's kind of the similar story. Diesel is usually around 25% more than gasoline at this point, wherever you are. That second argument is no longer the case. The third reason why a diesel engine may be more cost effective than this engine in the long run is because, well, the 6.7 Cummins is just a stronger built engine. It is meant to last longer. It's meant to be beat. Whereas the gas option, the 6.4 HEMI, there's nothing wrong with it, but it is just not going to last as long as a 6.7 Cummins. So for example, if this gas engine, the 6.4 HEMI, was going to last 10 years, the Cummins may last 13 to 15 years. And so that could save you money in the long run because you don't have to buy a new engine, and realistically, you don't have to buy a new truck. So let's start digging into the numbers here. I'm going to use an old video here. I compared my friend's 2021 Ram 2500 Cummins to my 2022 Ram 2500 6.4 HEMI. We ran, I think it was a 20 kilometer loop, and we compared fuel economies. So I'm going to use that as our fuel economy standard for this video. So right off the bat, guys, where I live, a Cummins diesel option costs $9,450. Now you have to add 13% sales tax on there, so that brings us to $10,700. And I'm assuming most people are going to be financing some of the truck. So I'm going to add another $500 on top of that for financing costs. So that's going to bring us to $11,200 of initial cost for our diesel option here. The Cummins was much more efficient, running 22 miles per gallon versus my Hemi that actually ran 13.8. Now, you're probably wondering, why does it say 14.8? Well, for this occasion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump up the Hemi by 1 mile per gallon, just because my Power Wagon, well, it's really not a standard Ram 2500 with the 6.4 Hemi. It's 2 inches higher. It's got more aggressive all-terrain tires, as well as having the 410 gears, which a normal Ram 2500 you can get 373 gears in the back, which would greatly improve your fuel economy. So I'm going to bump up the Hemi by 1 mile per gallon, just because, well, it's the Power Wagon. So as you guys can see, there is a big difference, and actually this difference is 48%. So the Cummins is 48% more fuel efficient than the 6.4 Hemi in this situation, which is pretty drastic. But I'm sure as you guys remember, diesel is at an all-time high, so we do have to take into account the price of diesel versus the price of gas. Now, if you look up here, this is the price of fuel locally to me, like I mentioned, $2.14 a liter for diesel and $1.64 a liter for gasoline, giving us a 30% difference. So diesel is 30% more expensive than gasoline. So if we equate that 30% into our fuel economy equation here, the Cummins is no longer going to be 48% more efficient. It is only going to be 18% more fuel efficient when you factor in the cost of diesel. So just looking at fuel economy numbers, the Cummins would still be coming out on top as a better bang for the buck, just with its fuel economy. Now, I'm gonna have to forgive my American viewers here because we're gonna break this down in metric, just gonna be easier for me, but the end result will be the exact same, so fear not. So for the Cummins, I broke it down. Its fuel economy is gonna equate to about 23 cents per kilometer versus the Hemi at 27 cents per kilometer. Now, that is a 4-cent per kilometer difference. And if we do the math on that, that will determine how many kilometers we need to drive to make up that initial $11,200. So our break even would be 280,000 kilometers or 173,000 miles, which is actually not that unreasonable. In fact, for a diesel engine like the Cummins, that's probably a walk in the park, not really that much of a problem. But there are a couple things we are not taking into account yet, and that is the cost of maintenance for both a diesel truck and a gasoline truck. So let's dive into that. I did a little bit of research. If I was gonna do a full service on a 6.7 Cummins, you'd need your 1 oil filter and 2 fuel filters and 12 quarts of oil. Just for simplicity's sake, I took the Mopar filters off Amazon. That would be around $110 Canadian, taxes included. And I ran synthetic oil, Rotella Shell T6. You need 3 jugs of that, so that would come to $210 Canadian after tax. So you're looking at like $620 Canadian to do a full service on a 6.7 Cummins. Whereas if you do a Mopar filter on this 6.4 Hemi, as well as synthetic oil, I did Mobile 1, you're looking more like $125 Canadian out the door. And that's just if you do both those by yourself, not including labor costs. So taking engine maintenance costs into account, the Hemi cost 1.2 cents per kilometer, where the Cummins is going to cost 2.6 cents per kilometer. Now that gives us a net difference of 1.4 cents per kilometer. So instead of the Cummins being 4 cents per kilometer cheaper, it's gonna bring us down to only 2.6 cents per kilometer cheaper than driving the 6.4 Hemi. This is also gonna result in the kilometers needed to be driven to break even to increase. So now our break even is at 430,000 kilometers or 267,000 miles. So now with the fuel economy as well as the engine maintenance all taken into consideration, we have a break even kilometerage of 430,000 kilometers, which to me is still not crazy high. I think most diesel engines can run that long. It's a different story if the truck itself will last, but in terms of the engine, I don't think that is out of the range. And so technically, still speaking, I think owning a Cummins, and if you're gonna own it for a long time, would still be the best bang for the buck. Except we have to talk about one more thing, and here's where I'm gonna use my, my experience as a licensed diesel mechanic. After treatment is going to cost you. So let's break that down. So to begin with after treatment, any modern diesel truck that is sold as of today is going to have an SCR system, meaning you're going to need to have diesel exhaust fluid or DEF. And DEF is going to run you about half a cent per kilometer. Obviously the Hemi, like I've written down, there is no DEF cost because, well, there is no after treatment system on a gas engine. Now, the last thing I'll talk about is the cost of after treatment parts as well as labor. So after treatment is very expensive. It is a cash cow for the dealership. I know because I work at the dealership. I would say like 80% of all check engine lights are after treatment stuff. And in order to really get in there and diagnose what the heck's going on, You need special software, which is going to cost a fortune, which the average shop or the average, guy at home is not going to have. So you're going to have to pay the dealership their expensive rates just to even diagnose what the heck is going on. And unfortunately, with after treatment codes, it is going to derate the truck if you don't get it fixed. So you really don't have much of an option. You're going to have to get it fixed if you want to drive the truck. And when they do diagnose things, the parts are nasty expensive. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm going to be very, very conservative here and say your after treatment cost is going to be, again, half a cent a kilometer. And I think that's very conservative, but we'll stick with that just for the time being. So that's an extra cent per kilometer. So what that is going to do, that's going to drop our advantage over the 6.4 HEMI by 1 full cent. So instead of 2.6 cents, it's going to be 1.6 cents of cost advantage per kilometer over a 6.4 HEMI. Unfortunately, with a modern diesel, we do have to just factor all this stuff in. But even with factoring that all in, there is still technically an advantage over the 6.4 HEMI in this case. However, if we do the math and we figure out our break-even kilometer range, it becomes a little bit more interesting. So as you guys can see, in order to break even with this price advantage, you would have to drive 700,000 kilometers or 435,000 miles on the truck to just break even with the initial purchase price of a diesel engine. So to me at that point, that is a little unreasonable. I just don't see the average modern diesel pickup truck making it that long. Not that the engines can't run. I'm sure there will be situations where people will have diesel engines, Cummins engines that run that long, but the pickup truck around it is just going to fall apart. That 6-speed behind the Cummins in a Ram 2500 is really not that great, and unfortunately, I hate to say it, these modern trucks just aren't built like they used to be. So the odds of anyone making it that far, I would say, are pretty slim. Therefore, in my opinion, it would be at an advantage to buy the 6.4 HEMI for most people who are looking for the best bang for the buck. Now, what's interesting is if you guys are looking for a pre-emission diesel truck, so anything 2006 and below, that would 100% without a doubt be a much more cost-effective truck than a gasoline truck from that same era. It is kind of unfortunate that these modern after-treatment systems just kind of ruin the advantage that a diesel used to always have. I just thought this would be a cool video because the diesel prices are so high right now. I'm going to imagine that diesel is probably going to eventually come back down to earth a little bit and, maybe just be a little bit higher than gas. And at that point, maybe we can revisit this topic and go over the numbers again. But as of right now, today, it seems like the 6.4 HEMI is probably the best bang for the buck. And I would say anyone who is really not towing over like 14,000 pounds regularly, the 6.4 HEMI probably is the best truck. If you guys are towing heavy or you're towing very consistently, obviously you're going to have to get the diesel. It is just a no-brainer. That thing is a much better towing engine than the 6.4 HEMI. Let me know if you want to see a comparison between an Eco Diesel and a 5.7 HEMI. I do have some real-world fuel economy numbers that I can use to plug into that equation. And I think that would be really cool also. So let me know if you want to see that. But yeah, guys, as always, I hope you liked the video. Hope you liked my little comparison there. Let me know what you think. Did I screw up my math? Did I miss something? I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. But as always, if you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And if you like cool stuff like this, don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to have you guys on board. But enough of me. We'll see you in the next freaking video.